You know, before we even start this video, you already know what the next video is gonna be, don't you? I mean, you've read the updates. Even if you haven't, your Dota playing friends would have told you. Even if you don't have any Dota playing friends, I'm sure you would have heard. I don't know, was it on the news? Did CNN talk about it? I mean, the Daily Mail, the New Yorker, everyone's reporting on it. Even my mum knows about it and she doesn't even know what computers are. She thinks my job is like a professional hacker, like in those movies. She once asked me how many keyboards I use at work because of that one CSI scene where the dude has got like both hands on two separate keyboards while he's hacking into the CIA mainframe. That's how little she knows about computers, and even she knows. Every single hero in Dota now has an AGS upgrade. And you know what that means? As soon as we're done here, I think an AGS tier list is in order. But before all that, there's the more pressing video topic to discuss. Dota 722 was just released. Well, technically, by the time I record this, 722B was the update that was just released. And Dota 722 is pretty much ancient at this point. And by the time I finish editing this and uploading it, I'm sure we'll be up to, I don't know, 735. But regardless, there's a couple of things that you might want to talk about. Dota 722 is a major update that changed the fundamentals of how a lot of heroes are played. Even ignoring the AGS upgrades, which might call for completely restructuring how you build heroes, the meta has been straight shook, and spoiler alert, supports are getting the short end of the stick again. But obviously they are. I mean, did you ever think it would be otherwise? I don't even know how people still play support roles with how much Ice Frog picks on and punishes them. Honestly, if you look back right now, you'll see that with every 5 updates or so, supports lose out on 4 of them, only to be thrown a rotting bone on the 5th that makes them go, "See? I told you Ice Frog still respects us." Observer wards had their durations nerfed and their costs increased, like 4 times in a row I think, only for them to be made stackable with sentries on the 5th. But I guess that plays into the exact same support mindset that we're used to, right? I mean, in-game they do all of the hard and dirty jobs like risking their lives to secure that ward spot, with the reward being a couple of last hits at 30 minutes in, because the carry is 7-slotted. I guess if it was any different IRL it would be sort of weird. But we'll talk about that more when we get to the items, and then when we get to every individual support hero's changes. Honestly, nearly all of them have been nerfed. Except one, and we'll get to that. Now obviously what you'd say to that is, well, of course they've been nerfed, they had to be balanced now that they've all got AGS upgrades. But if you say that, you've just caught yourself in a trap, because yeah, I mean, that's exactly why it's happening. Every single hero who didn't have an AGS now has an AGS, and most of them have been nerfed to compensate, because their AGS are really good. Dark Willow and Ancient Apparition, and all of those support heroes who got nerfed, so their AGS didn't make them too overpowered. Now Ancient Apparition already had an AGS upgrade, of course, but I mean, if you're nerfing supports, why don't you just nerf them all, Ice Frog? Ancient Apparition got punished for existing. I don't know. And therein lies the problem, right? Because not everyone can afford an AGS. Nerfing a hero's base spells in order to balance their AGS spells means that to any hero who couldn't afford an AGS, or can't prioritize it over more pressing issues like buying sentries against that Riki, or buying a Glimmer Cape against that Necrophost, well, all of those heroes are just universally worse, with no silver linings, because none of them can get AGS. But then again, maybe I'm wrong about that, because here I am assuming that people would sometimes need to buy sentries instead of AGS parts, but turns out that's actually just not possible anymore, because there is, for some reason, a limit to sentry wards. Wow, I guess we won't be needing to counter that Riki after all. How swell! Starting off, not only are the aforementioned Aghanim Scepter upgrades for every single hero a thing, Scepter itself can now be consumed as a buff, like the sort Alchemist could give you, or by purchasing a 2000 gold recipe. For some heroes this is awesome, right? I mean, they don't benefit from any of the 10 attribute bonuses or health and mana, and desperately need that extra slot free. We'll cover it in the actual 2019 AGS tier guide, but in general, heroes that need a very specific 6 items in each slot, heroes that fill out slots way too fast to use AGS, and heroes who weirdly benefit from not having stats, all benefit from this AGS upgrade. It's an upgrade for your AGS upgrade. Yeah, that makes sense, right? It's pretty crazy. And a couple of days ago, I actually did a stream, and we made a tier list live with everyone who was around on one of those tier maker websites. And you guys were there when I discovered that some of the absolute worst AGS carries in 2018 actually jumped all the way to the top. And it makes sense, right? Because obviously a major part of why an AGS upgrade is bad is when to benefit from it, you have to occupy a whole item slot for a mediocre stat item. Meepo was just the worst, because obviously he filled out on item slots in the blink of an eye and always had something better than an Ags to buy. And yet, with this new ability to gain the Ags upgrade and retain your 6th item slot for the, when playing Meepo, absolute menial cost of only 2,000 extra gold, Meepo jumps all the way from, I think, F tier to now one of the best Ags carriers in the game. Funny how that be. And as if Meepo in particular didn't benefit enough, Roshan now drops the Scepter buff item. It's kind of awkward actually. After killing Roshan 3 times, you will have a 50% chance of getting the Ags buff consumable or a refresher shard. On the 4th kill, you'll get both. You'll actually be able to tell before killing Roshan which one will drop, because it'll just appear in his inventory. But this is kind of clunky, in the same way that Pangolier's Lucky Shot had a 50-50 chance of either disarming a target or silencing. But spoiler alert, that was removed in this update because it was clunky and unreliable. Who wants to go in wanting a very specific thing to happen only to have the opposite occur? It screwed over Pangolier players plenty of times, and it'll screw over Roche takers. So let me explain. So taking Roshan 3 times can only occur at around 30 minutes at the earliest, right? I mean, you can, if you're lucky, kill it right off the bat at 1 minute into the game, even before that. And then you've got to wait 10 minutes and then 10 minutes again. Technically, the absolute fastest you could do it was 20 minutes, but obviously most people aren't going to be able to level 1 Roche and then immediately Roche again at minute 10 and then minute 20. These sorts of things don't really happen. Overall, you're probably going to get the 3rd Roshan at 3 minutes in, at the earliest. Games are beginning to wrap up by 30 minutes, right? I mean, maybe not in this meta, maybe something has changed, but I wouldn't really be able to say so early. They may not be won for a few more minutes, but there's usually a really clear winner in terms of farm, gold, and win potential at 30 minutes. I mean, you see it in programs all the time. All of a sudden, someone's got a 20,000 gold net worth increase over the other team. So let's just say that the losing team is going for Roche, because maybe having a refresher shard on their, I don't know, Oracle might win them the game. I say Oracle because him having 2 of his ults could be game winning, and he doesn't really have a good Ags upgrade, so it works for this. Before 722, securing that 3rd Roche would secure that shard. In every single game, after you kill Roshan 3 times, he will drop shards. Now, in 722, it's a flip of the coin. And if you're losing at 30 minutes, odds are that you're probably not going to be around long enough to see what the 4th Roche has at 40 minutes. So in general, all of this is a bit goofy, and because of the 30-minute minimum before you can actually have a real chance to find it, the Ags buff can't really be given to anyone who depends on Ags. If you're Invoker, for instance, and you didn't have an Ags before 30 minutes while actively trying to build to it, you probably already lost. So the tiny subset of people that benefit from this Roche Ags is very specifically heroes who can kill all 3 or 4 Roches as soon as they spawn, which means successfully slaying the first one before 10 minutes in, heroes who don't already depend on Ags, and then heroes who enjoy the prospect of having their 6th item slot occupied by something more important. So weirdly, out of everyone in the game, the people that benefit from this the most are Ursa, Huskar, and Meepo. God, that guy really didn't like the fact that I ranked him the 2nd worst Ags carrier in the entire game back in 2018. He's really fighting to be one of the best. But then to top it all off, after 17,000 years, IceFrog finally completed the particle effect under heroes with an Ags upgrade. I mean, shit, dude, that shit was around in Dota 1, man, and for a hot second in an early build of Dota 2, too. So I'm not too sure about the word new in that bullet point. Beyond the Ag stuff, which we'll talk about way more later, Mars and Aya were added to Captain's Mode. I guess that sort of justifies why they got the crumbs when it came to Ags upgrades, right? Both got pretty mediocre upgrades, but I guess if they got something game-changing, they wouldn't be allowed into Captain's Mode for another whole update cycle. And I want to see Mars in tournaments, man. I mean, he's been in the game for a while. He didn't even make an appearance in the MDL Disneyland Paris Major, where the M in MDL literally stands for Mars. He didn't appear at all, except for this awesome short film that played as the opening ceremony. Oh, there he is! I wonder who made that. But then, as is tradition, before the meat of the update, IceFrog decided to tweak all of those tiny numbers about XP and gold and creep count and creep damage and tower armor and absolutely all of it. Every single major update, there's a bunch of notes for this stuff, and every update I at least try to find something thought-provoking to bring up to do with all of them, but I don't have much to say. Denies are worth a little less, but I mean, you're clearly going to keep denying. Death cost is lowered by 50 gold, but you're not gonna really plan on dying more because of it. You know what I mean? The only real game-altering ones are the fact that siege creeps can't be dominated, enchanted, or converted, which is pretty big for Enchantress and Chen, but not so much for Helm of the Dominator carriers, as they never really prioritized the siege creep when you only had one creep slot to fill. The biggest change though is probably the fact that tier 2 towers and beyond gain triple shot when Glyph of Fortification is used. Oh, the whole thing about Glyph is that and the thing that's causing the heavy damage is usually multiple units. Obviously a defensive Glyph isn't by itself going to push enemies back. And if that's the case, the only thing that lowers the amount of damage the tower was taking before Glyph is started, and after it ends, is the tower itself, killing the units with its attack. The fact that tier 2, 3, and 4 towers have extra damage when Glyph is used means that it might actually be a really beneficial offensive tool that's used to keep towers alive. But like anything, I guess time will tell. We're not done with this. There's a very special hero later on that benefits from the tower Glyph thing. You'll see what I mean. Beyond that though, illusions now have lifesteal, which is pretty freaking sweet. Illusions lifestealing means that setting Manta illusions into a wave will probably have them surviving all the way until they expire, rather than dying early due to illusions being pretty squishy. Did you notice? The lifesteal is obviously a fraction of a portion of what a normal hero would lifesteal. You're already not doing much damage as a typical illusion, and lifesteal is calculated after the illusion damage penalty. Plus, as an illusion, you're taking more damage per hit, which mitigates a lot of your lifesteal in general. Where this gets really useful is on illusion-based heroes like Chaos Knight and Terrorblade, who actually really kinda do have a lot of damage that their illusions can give and receive. Previously, neither of these heroes could really completely justify Morbid Mask, even though it was really great on them, just because it never really helped beef up illusions. But now that's flipped. Precisely because it works on illusions, CK, PL, Terrorblade, really any hero who wanted to go lifesteal can now. Plus, it has the added benefit in PL's case, where the sporadic spawning of illusions can be guaranteed to at least be spawning them already close to high health. Right? While CK casts ult near the start of the fight and then sort of dusts his hands and leaves them to it, Phantom Lancer can be spawning illusions every other second from beginning to end. Because lifesteal is one of the only item effects that PL can pick up to keep himself high health during fights, his illusions come out healthier too. Because of this, expect changes with how illusion carries are built and played, once the meta settles. But then of course there's the showstopper, the party popper, the most jaw-dropping change of the patch. I am of course talking about how Ring of Regen and Sage's Mask and all of those items can't be shared with your friends for a bit of regen anymore. Which, cool, I guess. Honestly, I'm pretty confident in this claim that I'm about to make that you haven't even done this in 3 to 4 years, even though you've known it was possible the entire time. Because nobody does it. Pros don't even do it. It's just a neat little quirk that, previously existed just as a bit of random trivia to fill out the loading screen tips. Hey, did you know that you could partially share Sage's Mask? Not anymore, Dota. Not anymore.